Hi, everyone. My name is Mara, and I'm a technical sales rep for Cara Technology, helping people implement sensory training and programs to improve the quality of their products in the brewing and other beverage industries all over the world. You probably know our products are Z of Flavour standards, and today I'm going to be following with our A to Z series covering Caprylic. So, caprylic, also known as octanoic acid, is most commonly perceived in beer as being similar to goat hair, or at higher concentrations, can even be perceived as candle wax. So, as most of you probably haven't had much experience with goat sensory for that matter, you can kind of liken it to other barn like animals. Kind of that farmhouse feel, or more likely than not, you've probably tried a traditionally brewed Czech pills at some point. It's often found in pale lagers as a positive attribute. The reason why caprylic is pretty unusual in beer is that it's not actually commonly perceived as an aroma or a flavor, but more often than not as a mouthfeel. It's described as being fatty or soapy in the mouth, and it can also contribute to the overall body of the beer. So you can still evaluate your beer, like I have here, in a similar way that you would most styles, looking for most flavors. So I typically like to put my hand over my beer, just give it a nice swirl to release those volatile aromas. Give it a long sniff, and then for caprylic, I tend to try to kind of hold it in my mouth a little bit longer, see if you can feel that smoothness, that full-bodied nature that you can really feel on the roof of your mouth and tongue. So similar to beers, you can also think of some Chardonnays that are left in barrels for long periods of time in the hopes of getting that really full-bodied, smooth mouthfeel as a positive underlying attribute in your final product. So let's talk a little bit about the origins of caprylic or octanoic acid. I think it's important to note here that although generally referred to as a single attribute, it actually is better regarded as a construct of a combination of several fatty acids, though octanoic acid is actually the key contributor. So that's why we refer to it as such. Typically, octanoic acid is produced by yeast during the maturation phase of the brewing process. So a lot of times it can come from yeast autolysis, or if a beer is maturing for a long period of time in a tank. So the perception of caprylic in beer is actually highly dependent on other factors in your product, including things like mineral content, the presence of live or dead yeast cells, the ABV of the beer, and probably most importantly, the pH of the beer. So the lower the pH of the beer, the more likely you will be to detect the odor of caprylic in your product, hence why it's most commonly found in pale lagers. As you can see, caprylic is a pretty complex flavor in beer, but it's not all bad. At higher concentrations, yes, it can have an undesirable flavor, but for the most part, it seems pretty underlying and mostly contributing to a more full-bodied lager. If you want to learn more about fatty acids and the caprylic composition on a more molecular level, please feel free to reach out and we'd be happy to discuss a little bit deeper into the biochemistry of it all. Otherwise, next time someone goes to grab a sip of your beer and they say it's the GOAT, maybe they just mean it's the greatest of all time. Okay, thanks for listening, guys, and tune in next time for more A to Z flavors.